Dakota Johnson, Vin Diesel, and Michael Caine. They're just a few of the Hollywood A-listers who descended upon the 5th annual Red Sea Film Festival this past December. A celebration of film and cinema, the festival isn't held in Hollywood. No, it takes place on the other side of the world, all the way in Saudi Arabia, the oil-rich country headed by de facto ruler Mohammed bin Salman, commonly referred to as MBS. Held in the city of Jeddah, the film festival is just the latest example of the kingdom's courting of Hollywood. Yet, for a brief time, just a few years ago, it looked like the Middle Eastern powers' relationship with Hollywood had been permanently damaged. Well now, not so much. This is the story of Hollywood and Saudi Arabia's second act, and the political and economic turmoil pulling the strings. I'm Eric Trout, and this is episode 8 of 8 Ball. To understand the ever-evolving relationship between Hollywood and Saudi Arabia, you first must understand the history of US-Saudi relations, which dates back almost a century. In 1933, the Saudis granted the American oil company, Standard Oil, exclusive rights to search for oil in the eastern province of Saudi Arabia, forming a partnership that would later come to be known as the oil giant Aramco, and setting the stage for official diplomatic relations between the two countries.
The plane carries President Roosevelt to Egypt to solidify ties in the Middle East. Then representing Saudi Arabia comes King Ibn Saud, presumably centered on the vastly important question of oil.
And while oil was then, and still is now, a core part of the US-Saudi relationship, it isn't the only reason for the strategic alliance between the two countries. During the Cold War era, the United States was fearful about Soviet influence in the Middle East. To combat this, the United States, through the 1951 Mutual Defense Assistance Agreement, sold hundreds of millions of dollars worth of US arms to Saudi Arabia, which Saudi Arabia then used in their decade-long plus conflict against neighboring Egypt, which was backed by the Soviets at the time. Fast forward to 1990, the US again leveraged the two-country security alliance, putting troops on the ground in Saudi Arabia to counteract Saddam Hussein's invasion of neighboring Kuwait. That being said, the relationship hasn't always been easy.
It's never been a close relationship in the sense that Americans felt close to Saudis, or even our government felt like Saudi Arabia was like us.
Kristin is a senior resident scholar at the Arab Gulf States Institute.
I mean, it's a monarchy. It was very much had an insular-looking religious establishment.
Saudi Arabia's religious establishment, which has historically been deeply integrated within the country's government, revolves around Wahhabism, a strict and early form of Islam that rejects innovation and practices strict monotheism. However, concerns about Saudi Wahhabism's ideological links to that of terrorist organizations reached a fever pitch after the 9/11 attacks. 15 of the 19 9/11 hijackers were Saudi nationals, leading to serious questions from US lawmakers about possible links between the Saudi government and terrorist groups. Ultimately, though, those tensions never destroyed the US-Saudi relationship.
The Saudi-US relationship is kind of a strange one because it's so strongly integrated in US interests, both through the military relationship, the security ties, and oil. And these are very fundamental things, especially oil is what generates the entire global economy.
But as important as oil is to the global economy, by 2015, crude oil prices were falling, spelling bad news for a Saudi government that was heavily dependent on oil. So in 2016, MBS announced a new vision for Saudi Arabia, a plan aptly called Vision 2030, in an attempt to reduce the country's overwhelming dependence on oil revenue. Vision 2030 outlined a bold plan for a new and modernized Saudi Arabia, aimed at transforming the religiously conservative and oil-dependent nation into a hub for economic activity, investment, and a high quality of life. The Quality of Life program within Vision 2030 aimed at turning Saudi Arabia into an entertainment powerhouse, thereby improving Saudi Arabia's global image. Acting on this plan, in late 2017, MBS ended a 30-year-plus ban on movie theaters in the country.
Since the rise of 2017, 2018, when we had the opening of movie theaters in Saudi Arabia for the first time, Saudi Arabia has emerged as the largest and by far the most profitable market in the Arab world.
Dr. Foley is the author of the book, Changing Saudi Arabia: Art, Culture, and Society in the Kingdom.
This is a market that represents somewhere north of 40+% of all films being seen in the Arab world. It's a market with a population that's overwhelmingly young, that has money to spend.
In fact, a 2023 census revealed that 63% of Saudi Arabia's 32 million person population is under the age of 30. Hollywood, eager to enter this massive new market and hungry for new financing options after foreign investment from China dried up in the latter half of the 2010s, welcomed MBS's plan for a new, modernized Saudi Arabia with open arms. AMC secured a long-term licensing partnership in the country to build 50 to 100 cinemas across 25 different Saudi cities by 2030. In the spring of 2018, during his visit to the United States, MBS dined with media moguls like Bob Iger and Rupert Murdoch. He even opened up the checkbook of Saudi Arabia's public investment fund, known as the PIF, to purchase 5 to 10% of Ari Emanuel's talent agency, Endeavor, for $400 million in order to back entertainment projects in Saudi Arabia and abroad. It all seemed like a dream for those worried about Hollywood's financial future, until that dream came crashing down. The murder and dismemberment of Washington Post journalist and prominent Saudi critic Jamal Khashoggi at the Saudi Arabian consulate in Turkey in the fall of 2018 sent shockwaves around the world, especially in Hollywood. Just months removed from his visit to the United States, MBS was suspected to be at the center of the brazen and bloody murder of a Washington Post journalist, a suspicion that was later supported by findings from US intelligence services, which concluded that, quote, Prince Mohammed bin Salman approved an operation in Istanbul, Turkey to capture or kill Saudi journalist Jamal Khashoggi. At an almost dizzying pace, Saudi Arabia's PIF and their leader, MBS, had gone from Hollywood's new crown jewel to a thorn in its side. Hollywood power players, notably Endeavor Group, quickly distanced themselves from the Saudi regime, pulling out of the $400 million deal the company had made with Saudi Arabia's PIF, while Hollywood actor Gerard Butler canceled a movie promotion trip to the country in response.
I felt kind of watching things after the horrible killing of Jamal Khashoggi that those ties were the quickest to fall off in a way. In these kind of soft industries, they're kind of like, okay, we're stepping away. And they're also more prone, I think, to public opinion, and American public opinion was pretty strongly against the Saudis at that moment.
But as we've seen, the American government and now entertainment titans, over time, seem to face the same dilemma. Is it worth it to keep doing business with the Saudis despite their authoritarian and repressive government? Hollywood, while not new to financial troubles, started to face an onslaught of existential threats within 2 years of Jamal Khashoggi's murder. The onset of the pandemic in 2020 dealt devastating blows across the entertainment industry, putting the industry at a standstill and leading to massive production delays and job cuts. This presented a golden opportunity for Saudi Arabia to reassert itself into Hollywood as a financial backer. And Saudi Arabia did not take long to capitalize on this. In the early days of the pandemic, the PIF purchased just under 500 million shares worth of Disney and established a 5.7% ownership interest in live entertainment behemoth Live Nation through a $500 million investment. Additionally, the COVID pandemic shifted viewer consumption habits, further ostracizing entertainment workers, leading to the worker strikes of 2023. While the Writers and Screenwriters Guild of America strikes resulted in significant wins for workers, including minimum compensation increases and protections against AI, the strikes crippled Hollywood's bottom line, costing the industry an estimated $5 billion. These losses, on top of the economic pressure still lingering from the COVID pandemic, put significant stress on the industry. Suddenly, Saudi money didn't seem as toxic as it did in the initial aftermath of the Khashoggi killing. And that feeling was given legitimacy thanks in part to the Biden administration's shifting approach on doing business with Saudi Arabia. Back in 2019, during Biden's presidential campaign, then presidential candidate Joe Biden promised to hold Saudi Arabia accountable for their human rights violations, most notably the murder of Jamal Khashoggi. But within the first months of Biden's administration, it became clear that the administration was going to continue selling arms to Saudi Arabia. In 2021, with the support of the White House, the Senate approved a $650 million arms sale to the kingdom, and by 2022, the administration had abandoned its position of not meeting with MBS directly. After President Trump was elected in November of 2024, that careful tiptoeing went to an outright warm embrace, turning back the clock to the early days of the first Trump administration. For Hollywood, if Biden's subtle reversal was an indication that it was now acceptable to consider Saudi financing again, Trump's glowing welcome of MBS to the White House this fall meant that Hollywood should actively be seeking out Saudi business once again. We're now seeing this play out in real time. In October, former Lionsgate executive Eric Feig made headlines after it was announced that he would serve as CEO for Arena S&K Studios, a new independent film company that received $1 billion worth of investment from three main backers: Mist Group, SNK, and NBC Group, all groups who have close relations to Saudi Arabia and MBS. And this new independent studio is not an isolated example of Hollywood's renewed involvement with Saudi Arabia. In November, the Saudi Arabian government led a new $900 million financing round in Luma AI, the company at the forefront of AI video generation in Hollywood. As part of the deal, Luma AI will open up an office in the Saudi capital city of Riyadh and gain access to the kingdom's expansive AI computing power. Yet, both of these deals have ended up taking a back seat to the one that has rocked Hollywood and the broader media ecosystem. It has been reported for months that David Ellison and Paramount's bidding for Warner Brothers was backed in part by Saudi Arabia's Public Investment Fund. Paramount's $108 billion hostile takeover attempt of Warner Brothers following the Netflix-Warner Brothers deal only further confirmed the Saudis' involvement. The Saudis are throwing money around like it's 2018 again, and Hollywood is once again fully embracing it. But unlike the Saudis' first Hollywood blitz, their second dance with Hollywood has some subtle differences.
In the early days, they were kind of just reaching out in all directions. He was really trying to build these new relationships that hadn't been forged before, and just to get anything that they could by the Saudis out there. But I think now, as they're starting to stand up their Ministry of Culture, as they're starting to fund Saudis to go abroad or even to study more and to invest in them inside, they can now have kind of the infrastructure to start to make those demands. And I think they really have always been and remain interested in empowering sort of Saudis at home.
The Saudi government has introduced generous cash rebates for film production in the country, while introducing a new Saudi film fund to advance collaboration between Saudi filmmakers and international studios. These recent Saudi moves are emblematic of a maturation of Saudi Arabia's investment strategy, one that is increasingly focused on investing locally and making Saudi Arabia a prime destination for international film studios and talented Saudi filmmakers.
They still need to develop a whole series of things. Among the goals they're looking for is to continue to develop their domestic talent. And that's something that's incredibly important to them, to develop the type of talent that's capable of winning major awards on the global stage.
This commitment to highlight a new wave of filmmakers who can tell previously untold or under-recognized stories about the Arab world is frankly hard to argue against. But in the same vein, given Saudi Arabia's history regarding freedom of expression, it's reasonable to question the true motivations behind Saudi Arabia's involvement in Hollywood. To be clear, Saudi Arabia's suppression of free speech is not just a part of the country's history. It's very much a part of present-day Saudi Arabia. A US State Department report from 2024 concluded that as far as freedom of expression in Saudi Arabia is concerned, quote, authorities decided what speech or expression was considered to undermine national security, with, quote, frequent reports of restrictions on free speech. As Saudi Arabia attempts to woo international studios into building up the country into an arts and entertainment hub while also further investing in Hollywood, what films or topics will the Saudi Arabian government restrict? And to what extent will their new US partners feel pressure to comply? It seems like Hollywood, as progressive as it proclaims to be, doesn't really want to know the full answer to those questions. For almost 100 years, the US government has approached the Saudi relationship in a similar way, focusing on calculated collaboration, while turning a blind eye to the realities of the Saudis' autocratic regime. In welcoming the Saudis again, Hollywood is clearly following their government's lead by choosing their financial interests over their moral compass. But as history tells us, getting cozy with the Saudis is easy. Lying in the bed you've made is a whole different challenge.